Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Elena and I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're going to be talking about the subject of prepping and preppers. I find myself to be a little bit guilty of this, but not as bad as some people are. Before we start though, I would like to just say I would like to apologize for any of the ambient sounds that you will hear. I am renting a room and I am not in control of the atmosphere. I'm on a table that is very squeaky. I think it's a table that the landlord found on the curb, which is the thing that people do in Canada. You just, I guess maybe around the world too, but it's very it's a thing that they do here. You find something on the curb, you take it. So the table is very, very squeaky. I'm just waiting for one day for the table to just fall. So anyway, I can't control the sounds. So I just have to use what I got. So anyway, few days ago, or maybe even up as far as last week, I was watching a video. So we're in the time of the coronavirus and a lot of people are talking about a lot of things. And somebody was talking about prepping. It's one of those news podcasts. So he was just talking, this host, he was just talking about the fact that he found himself in the US now starting to prep because they believe that because of the way Trump is handling things in the US, there might be food shortages in the fall to the winter. So now he and his family, they're concerned and he is thinking of prepping. And in the past, he had thought of preppers as nut jobs, for lack of another word. And he'd always thought of it as being something politically motivated. And so he never really thought of himself as being that kind of person. And so now this average American man found himself now in the process of becoming a prepper because he was concerned. So he was saying that people who prep, they have a lack of trust in some aspects of society. And I found myself thinking, I prepared for this pandemic as well. Maybe not as intensely as others, but I consider myself somebody who was ready for this. I didn't prepare as much because I'm not rich, so I could only prepare as much as I could with the funds and the ability that I had. So of course, like I do, I started to overthink this because I never really thought of the whole idea of prepping being motivated by some kind of political ideal. I always just thought you prepare for things so that you are ready. But it got me to thinking, why did I prep? And so I was thinking about this and I was trying to understand why. So I thought I would make a video explaining that not everybody who prepares it's not like cut and dry. It's not just a simple, I don't believe in the government and I don't trust them and they're gonna destroy everything. Sure, some people might believe this, but we are not simple creatures. There's always some deep reason behind why we do the things that we do. So I wanted to tell my story as to why I started to prepare, and I was hoping that others would want to tell their story as well. So this is the whole point of this video. Why I started to prepare for this pandemic, why I was ready. So when they called for when the WHO said this is a pandemic, why I wasn't running to the grocery store and buying 20 packets of toilet paper and looting all the pasta and the milk and whatever, why I already had several suitcases filled with food and cleaning supplies and all the stuff that you needed. I already had all of that prepared. So while everybody was going crazy, I was already ready. So as I do, I had to think about this. Where did it come from? At first I thought it started one place, but then I had to go back. No, it started earlier. So it started when I was a child. I had to go way back. I remember I was watching this TV show. It's called The Smurfs. I'm sure everybody knows it. The memory of this one thing, it still sticks with me. I don't remember the exact episode, but I just remember the one scene. I was really young. I'm pretty sure I was still in the single digits, and the Smurfs, I don't know how they ended up there. They were in space, and there was some kind of photocopy machine, but and one of the Smurfs went to photocopy themselves, but instead of making a paper photocopy, it made a Smurf photocopy, so like a clone, and it kept, I guess the machine kind of broke down or something, and it just kept making like lots of copies of the one of Smurf, so that there were so many. And I remember watching this and my skin started to crawl. So that was the first instance. And you're wondering, what does that have to do with prepping? Well, that was the first instance of something being wrong. That scene creeped me out. I remember watching this and thinking, oh, I didn't like it. I didn't like watching all those Smurfs. Something about that scene was just, it bothered me. I did not like it. Then, let's go to many years later. I was working in a restaurant and I had to do a food handling course. So, in Canada, I don't know how it works in other countries, but in Canada, there has to be at least one person per shift at a restaurant who understands food safety. And I guess the health inspectors, they want to make sure that you understand food safety, so they kind of drum these principles in your head by showing you the most disgusting things. I don't know what was wrong with my inspector, but she showed me so many disgusting things. She showed us pictures of people's hands, and like you could see this man's hands, and under his nails were black. And then she explained, this is really gross, by the way. She explained to us, what do you think is under his nails? And then she said it was fecal matter, which was, and he was a baker and he was cooking food with this disgusting, and then she talked about all these food outbreaks, and then how people got sick. And there was the one with the orange juice, because the oranges were falling on the floor, and that's why they started pasteurizing the juice. And there was like, they were using manure, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff. Then they showed us videos and viruses multiplying, and it brought me back to that childhood trauma of watching the Smurfs multiply, and that bothered me again. So that's two. Again, this has to do with prepping, I promise. The worst one was then a couple of years after that. So after I did the food handling course, the first one, I became kind of a little bit obsessive. I handled it. I didn't go too crazy, but something was happening. I stopped eating at restaurants because I didn't trust the back of houses, because the food inspector, she showed us so many pictures of the back of houses of restaurants, and I was just like, yeah, I don't trust these people. And then I remember we walked into a restaurant, and then the chef came out, and his apron was black, he was wearing a white apron, but it was so filthy. And I was just like, yeah, no, if he is comfortable coming outside of his kitchen in an apron that looks like that, I don't want to know what his kitchen looks like. And I said to everybody, listen, we're not eating here. And I think that was one of the last times that I ate out. I eventually started again because as we go further on in the story, you'll see that I kind of went crazy. So then I remembered there was one day that I was able to leave work early. I'm a planner. I plan everything. It's just, that's the kind of person I am. I don't do things spontaneously because I prefer to know everything that's going to happen, or to be able to plan for everything that's going to happen. That's just how I operate. I feel comfortable that way, and it works for me. One day at work, I was able to leave early. I'm never able to leave early from my job. I still worked at that restaurant. I was never able to leave early, but for some reason I was able to leave early that day. And usually if I'm early, I would go home. A planner would go home and do something productive, but instead I decided spontaneously I would go watch a movie. And the movie that was playing was Contagion. So you know where this is going, right? I hope you can see where this is going. So this is 2011. I believe that's the year the movie came out. Again, I'm a planner. So if I have to go see a movie, there's a whole plan. I plan a week in advance. There's a whole, make the blah, 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 get to the theater at the right time, make sure we're there early so that we can buy the popcorn, and then all the things are on time. But I was free. I felt liberated. It was early in the day, and the movie theater was 2 stops away. I've never gone to that movie theater before. It's like the VIP one. They serve alcohol. I can just go there, and it was like a whole thing. So I decided, you know what? Let's go. I can do it. I'm an adult. I can go to the movie theater at like whatever time in the day where everybody's working. I'm free. I can do that. I had never done that. Well, I hadn't done that in a very long time because I worked Monday to Friday, and it felt so amazing to just be out during the regular day when everybody was working. So wouldn't you know it, I got to the movie theater and I was late. So I got into the movie. The trailer's already played. The trailer's already done. The movie's already started. So of course I bought popcorn. Sorry, I bought nachos. So I used to work at a movie theater, and I got bored of popcorn. So I never bought popcorn. I always bought nachos. My rule was, because nachos are finger foods, I always wash my hands. The only reason I can eat nachos at a movie theater is because movie theaters are touch-free. Is that what you call it? So there are no doors on the no doors in the washroom, and the taps are hands-free. So I don't have to touch anything. But I was late, so I said to myself, okay, it's fine. I'm gonna be late. I don't want to miss the movie. I never do this, but I decided I'm not gonna wash my hands. I never do this. I never do this. I'm the person who saw a chef's apron and literally told everybody we're leaving. I literally told my entire group of people we're leaving. Even though we made plans, we made reservations, we called, I said, nope, everybody, we're leaving. And I decided not to wash my hands when I went to watch a movie about a virus, about a pandemic. But I wasn't really thinking about that at the time. I was just thinking about how cool and how fun it is that I'm leaving. I'm at a movie during the daytime. So I'm in there eating like maybe a few chips, and boom, what's her face dies. Boom, her kid dies. Gwyneth Paltrow? And her kid dies. I paid all this money for this nacho, and I paid extra for the cheese. I just put it down. I just put it down. I think I ate maybe 3 chips, and I just put it down. My entire attention focused on this movie. I don't think I have ever had a movie take my attention so strongly. My entire attention focused on this movie. Like, what are the chances? I always wash my hands. And I walked into this movie where I didn't wash my hands, and it's a movie about washing your goddamn hands. Sorry. So I was so focused on the movie that I worked at a movie theater. So I never leave a mess in the movie theater. But I was so focused on what had happened in the movie that I didn't even remember to take the chips to throw away. As soon as the movie was done, I just got up and I went to the bathroom. I washed my hands and I went home. What ended up happening afterwards was that I became a bit of a germaphobe. I won't go into that now because it kind of took over my life. But the point of this video is not about the whole germophobia. Let me just say that it's kind of happening now. It became so crazy, but maybe I'll make a video about it later if you're interested in learning or hearing about the whole germophobia thing and about how the differences between then and now, my whole germophobia. Then I can make a video about it, but this is not the whole point. I realized though that I couldn't let it take over my life as it was doing. It was so crazy. It was too much. It was too much. So I decided that I couldn't let myself be that obsessive. And so what I had to do was, the only way I could get my life back was to make a plan. That's what I do. I had to make a plan. So the way I planned was, at first I had to say to myself, are we in a pandemic now? That was back when, not now. Obviously now we're in a pandemic, but back then. Are we in a pandemic? No. Are there signs of a pandemic? No. So why are you going crazy right now? If you got sick, are there means of fixing the problem? Yes. So if you got all the viruses that exist right now, do we have cures for them? Yes. So why are you letting this control your life? This is what I said. This is how I was able to get myself out of it. Obviously, I also did some exposure therapy because that's the best way you can handle it. But then I also made another plan. If we were to be in a pandemic, what would I do? And this is why this is why I prepped. This is why I prepped. This is why I became a prepper. So that it's a plan I made for myself in 2011. I would first off, I'd recognize the signs. As soon as the signs showed up, I would recognize them. This video is already getting long, so I won't go into detail. Again, if you'd like to hear about it, I'd be happy to maybe I could write it on my blog. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I'll write all the things that I'll write the plans that I'll do that. So the plans that I made for the 2011 plans, I will post them on the blog so that you could see the plans that I made. So I would recognize the signs and I would have a home base. So what I did was savings accounts, food to prepare for, and a place to shelter. So a place to shelter for the pandemic so that I would be safe. Because I think in the movie it was called the MEV1, looked so scary. And I was just like, that was what really scared me at the time. The virus looked terrifying, and the idea of a virus like that is the fear of it grips you. Luckily, we have not as bad a version right now. Hopefully it doesn't mutate and become something dreadful, but the idea of it was just scary. The other reason why I planned was because you see it all the time in everyday life. I know how to interact with people. When I speak with people, I seem extroverted, but in truth I am very, very much not. The reason I seem extroverted is because I know what to expect. I say hi, you say hi. I say how are you, you say blah. I know the script. I know what to expect. But when things change, everything, the whole script gets thrown out the window. When people are scared, especially, I don't know what to expect. And especially when you watch these world-ending movies, it's always the same thing. There are fights in the grocery stores because people are desperate and they're scared. And that was my biggest motivation for why I wanted to prep. I didn't want to be in the grocery store when everybody was panicking because I didn't want to fight for the stuff that I needed because I know I wasn't going to win. That was my biggest motivation. So I was thinking, when I watch all these movies and then the world is ending and everybody's running to the grocery store because they need water and they need dry foods, and I'm like, there's always that moment with the guns and the punching and then the fighting. I'm like, I don't want to be there. When that happens, I don't want to be there. I want to be not there. I want to be in the furthest place from there. So that was my first thought. When something happens, recognize that it's happening right away before everybody else and be ready, so that when when everybody is finally ready to see what's happening, you ain't there. You're not there. So that was my reason. That was the main reason why I became a quote unquote a prepper. So sounds like I said a pepper, but I meant a prepper. So that was my reason. It had nothing to do with politics or trust in the government or lack thereof. I believe that, especially in Canada, despite people's political views, I do believe that when it comes down to it, we will come together. Except for a few nut jobs. I must say it. Few nut jobs in the streets being stupid. At the end of the day, we will come together. I have faith in people. It's just when we're scared, sometimes we let fear control. And I always ask myself, do you want to be in that position where you have to ask yourself, how did I get here? I don't want to put myself in that position. That's always what I think to myself. How can I take myself, how can I make sure I am not in that place where I have to ask myself, how did you get there? And so that's why I prepared. And that's where my thought process went. So this is what I thought. Any of you out there who also prepared, I would love to hear why you prepared for this or why you didn't. Otherwise, if you like this kind of video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.